I filed the 14th petition on the 43rd day. I want to be precise about that, because precision is what the Vethali Conquered does. We are not a military people. We do not maintain warships or standing combat formations. We maintain records, 47,000 years of arbitration transcripts, treaty texts, disputed boundary surveys, and the accumulated procedural memory of a civilization that decided, very early, that the best way to avoid war was to write everything down. Accord Spur 19 was our deepest archive station. 4 inhabited decks, 61 staff, and 17 million indexed documents covering 312 recognized species. We were not built to receive a kill swarm. The Reclaimer drones were a Conquered-era weapons program, decommissioned 22 years prior when the Veth Pact dissolved. Their disposal was handled, so the record showed, by the Orvasan Defense Compact. The record was wrong. 11 units had been placed in maintenance storage in the station's lower service corridors during a routine transit stop, a filing error so obscure that no one at the station had known they were there. On day 1, something woke them. Whether it was a power fluctuation or simply 22 years of slow component drift, finally resolving toward an active state, I have read the technical assessment 3 times and still cannot say. What I can say is that Maintenance Technician Overseer Hevath Sorrel went into the lower corridor to investigate a conduit fault and did not come back. We sealed the corridor immediately and filed the first petition to the Orvasan Defense Compact, because the drones were their decommissioned property and therefore, under the Conquered Arbitration Framework Section 7, their legal responsibility. The compact declined. The drones had been formally struck from their inventory register. No active treaty obligation covered hardware in the decommissioned status classification. We filed the second petition to the Veth Wardens. The third to the Sekul Accord Combined Arms Authority. The fourth through the 9th to the 6 largest independent defense contractors within 14 transit hours. Each petition was precise, properly formatted, attached to a current threat assessment summary, and a full manifest of the drone serial numbers. Each was declined. The reasons varied in phrasing but not in substance. Unclear liability, no standing treaty, jurisdictional ambiguity. Petitions 10 through 13 went to the Conquered's own emergency arbitration office, the body that existed specifically to resolve disputes between member species when no other mechanism applied. They acknowledged receipt of each petition. They noted the urgency assessments. They convened a preliminary review panel on Petition 11 and adjourned it pending the outcome of a jurisdictional inquiry into which decommissioning authority bore primary responsibility for the drone activation. That inquiry was still open when I filed Petition 14. One of the independent contractors told us, without apparent irony, that their operation schedule did not accommodate engagements where the probability of damage to their own equipment exceeded 40%. The Reclaimer drone's kill logic was designed for entrenched anti-personnel operations. In the narrow corridors of a bureaucratic archive station, 40% was generous. On day 43, I filed the 14th petition on a deprecated civilian auxiliary band, Band 14C, a human maintenance and emergency frequency left in our comm array as a legacy holdover from an old cooperative services agreement. I filed it there because I had run out of recipients. A clerk does not stop filing. A clerk files until there is no one left to file to, and then files once more into the silence on the off chance that someone is listening. I did not expect a reply. The hull dropped out of transit on day 46. It was not a warship. It was a converted salvage tender, a broad, flat-bottomed vessel with a reinforced prow and 4 extendable cargo arms folded against its flanks, the kind of ship used to retrieve debris and tow disabled hulls to port. It transmitted an authorization code I did not recognize, followed by a 6-word identifier. Earth Autonomous Systems Response, call logged. 6 humans came aboard. They moved like a repair crew, not a strike team, carrying cases, checking corridor clearances, asking practical questions before the airlock had fully cycled. They introduced themselves by role: team lead, 2 systems technicians, a structural assessor, a signals specialist, and a medic who was there. The team lead noted without emphasis, in case any of our staff had been injured in the lower corridors. They asked for the drone manifests. I gave them the reconstructed filing, apologizing for its incompleteness. The team lead looked at the serial number prefixes for approximately 4 seconds, then handed the datapad to one of her technicians and said, "Cascade series, 3 interrupt seams. Same logic block they used in the turret suppression program. Different chassis, same core." They asked to see the sealed corridor access point. 11 active signals showed on the readouts beyond the bulkhead, 11 drones, moving in a slow patrol pattern through the service grid, patient in the way machines are patient, without any experience of time at all. The team lead studied the readouts. She asked about the corridor geometry, the junction spacing, whether any maintenance panels were rated for vacuum. She made notes. She did not appear alarmed. None of them appeared alarmed. The medic had sat down on a storage case and was eating something from a foil packet. 18 hours, the team lead said, maybe less. Then she opened the bulkhead. What followed was methodical in a way that I, as a person whose profession is method, could appreciate without comprehending. The system's technicians carried signal emitters that projected interrupt cascades on the drone's active logic frequency, not jamming, not destroying, but speaking to the machines in a language the machines recognized as authoritative. A shutdown command from a source the kill logic classified as valid. The drones had been built to reject shutdown signals from unknown sources. What the humans understood was that if you knew the architecture, if you had built something similar yourself or studied the engineering thoroughly enough to know its inner grammar, then you were not unknown. You were a peer. You spoke the right dialect. The drones listened. Not all of them immediately. 2 units rerouted to a secondary logic pathway the humans had apparently anticipated. The team lead redirected her technicians without raising her voice. The structural assessor located a maintenance junction giving access to the secondary routing conduit. The signals specialist adjusted the emitter frequency. The 2 units went still 20 minutes later. By the 14th hour, 9 drones were offline and secured. By the 16th, 10. The 11th, the oldest unit, predating the standard cascade architecture by 8 months, required a direct physical intervention I did not witness, because the team lead asked me, without particular urgency, to move away from the observation port. The 11th drone was offline by hour 18. The humans swept every service corridor with handheld sensors, confirming no unit had evaded the manifest count. They found nothing. They then spent 30 minutes in the secured alcove doing something to the deactivated units that the systems technician, when I asked him later, described only as making sure. At hour 20, the team lead handed me a sealed containment report formatted precisely in standard Concord arbitration filing style, which they had downloaded from a public template archive. I later learned, specifically because they knew it would make my job easier. The report documented 11 Reclaimer-class autonomous weapons units, decommissioned status, serial numbers fully reconciled, currently offline secured pending retrieval by the appropriate Concord authority. It included a jurisdictional recommendation and a reference to the specific arbitration framework clauses that would compel the Orvasan Compact to respond. She told me the station was clear. She told me the Band 14C filing had been routed to Earth Civilian Response Registry. The channel was now on a monitored list. I tried to thank her. I have a formal vocabulary of gratitude that runs to 14 registered expression grades, calibrated to the appropriate relational and procedural context. I have used all of them over 31 years of service. I could not locate the right one. I stood at the bulkhead threshold with their containment report in my hands, and I looked at her, and I could not find the word in any of the 14 grades that fit what a crew of 6 had done in 18 hours that 14 petitions to armed fleets had not. She picked up her equipment case. She said, "It was on file, we came." I have not been able to look at her since. Not at the image from the docking camera, not at the name on the containment report's signatory line, not at the 6-word identifier still sitting at the top of my band 14C filing. The Orvasan Defense Compact replied to my corrected manifest in 2 days. 2 days, for the organization that took 6 days to decline my first petition and 43 to silence. I do not know what that means for the broader record. I only know what is in mine: 43 days of silence across 14 petitions, and then a salvage hull, and 6 people who looked at the problem and said it was on file. It was on file. They came.